He's onside. Go on it, Johnny's! Yes! Get in there!
Oh. He didn't know the camera was rolling, did he?
Facials on the end, wasn't it? I'm sweating just watching that back.
Jay Given has definitely got his passport ready, haven't you? All right, well, let's head straight back to the ground now and get some post-match reaction. You can see the players are still there on the pitch, so too is the manager, but we're going to hear from two of tonight's influential players, Dan Burn and Kieran Trippier.
Dan, Kieran, what a night, well done. How big a result, Kieran, does this feel at the moment?
Yeah, it was massive. You know, it's a business end of the season, 3 games left, and we knew we needed to get the 3 points, and it was about starting fast and trying to be clinical because we know Brighton are a top side, and full credit to the boys today because they gave everything.
Dan, talk about sealing it late on.
Yeah, no, it was good though. As I said, I knew Brighton would come back into it second half. They're a top team and they can play through you well, but credit to the lads, we've stuck at it, and Cal's come up with 2 big actions at the end.
That aggressive high press right from the start, did that set the tone tonight?
I think so. I think it set the tone all season. I think that's what we've been about. We've been so consistent, and maybe last couple of weeks we might have come off of that a little, but just really proud of the boys. It was a really, really top performance.
Does the first goal, Kieran, tonight show the value of a well-taken in-swinging corner?
No, we've been practicing them in training, and the set pieces have been a bit poor recently, but we should score more goals. But yeah, absolutely delighted that we managed to get 2 goals from set plays today. But the most important thing is the win. We know how big the win was, and now we focus on Monday because the games are coming thick and fast now.
So how good was the set piece for your goal?
Yeah, very good. Listen, Trips is a top player. You've got that consistent delivery, and we should have scored a lot more goals from set pieces. So I'm normally good for 1 a season, so I've left it late.
It was expected. Listen, Brighton are a top side. You know, the manager's top, the way they play, and we knew it was going to be under the caution in moments of the game, but it just shown our, togetherness and, trying to handle that pressure when it came, and I thought we did. And, full credit to the boys because we knew the expectation of this game, the position that we're in, and yeah, we move on to Monday now.
Dan, Newcastle are 1 win away from Champions League football. How does that sound?
Yeah, amazing. Would have bit your hand off that at the start of the season. But listen, this is the business end of the season. We've got 2 tough games. It's another good home game for Leicester. We're really good at home, especially nighttime games. So we'll just recover and go again. Hopefully try and get it done then.
Well done, guys. Kieran, it's not been a bad night for you, has it? You've been nominated for Premier League Player of the Season. And tonight, you're Player of the Match. Congratulations.
Thank you. You put me with the tallest guy in the Premier League.
Well done, guys.
Thank you. See you later.
Coming to Tyneside. Now, you know what? It's only 3 points, as we've said, only the 1 win. And it's such a huge moment for Newcastle in their season. How are you feeling about it all?
Yeah, I was nervous watching the game, especially when they got back into Brighton, and the 4-1 scoring makes it look an easy game. It was far from easy. 2 late goals, of course, sort of makes it really look easy, but it wasn't, and it was nervy, and it was, sweaty kind of watching it and tense because you stay before the game. It's Brighton. We've seen what they did at Arsenal last week. They're absolutely brilliant on the road. Went there 1-3-0, and my worry tonight was they could do the same thing. Now, the lads talked about the high press from Newcastle and how they pressed them high, and especially first half, Brighton couldn't get going at all into the game. Steele got pressed, and I wasn't sure if Newcastle were going to press them that way because they're so good at playing through the press. But Newcastle, man for man, you could see them all over the pitch. Eddie Howe's had them drilled so well, not just as Dan Burn mentioned in the interview, not just tonight, but over the season. They've been pressing teams high, probably one of the best pressing teams in the league, Newcastle. That's why they're third. But it's just probably a relief for me personally after the game because it's done. When you're sitting in the studio or you're sitting in the stand, you see that at the end because the pressure builds, and as Tripp says there as well in his interview, like everyone's a big cup final. Every game's so important because it's the business end, and it means Champions League or not. And we spoke about at half time what that means to Newcastle, the fans, and the football club moving forward.
Yeah, and let's actually talk through the events of the second half, specifically the Newcastle goals, Glenn, because it was Callum Wilson who scored his 18th goal of this season.
Yeah, it was, and it was really late on in the game, and this is a striker's mentality, and somebody like Callum, that you always keep believing that chance is going to rise. And do you know what? Even though it was very late in the game, he was still sharp, he was still hungry, but when he got that opportunity, he was clinical, and that was the thing, and he puts the game to bed. Brilliant. Just passes it past Jason Steele, but I think Van Heck had just been injured a little bit early, didn't want to get into that foot race with Callum Wilson, tried to step up, just timed it wrong, and when Callum Wilson gets in this position, more often than not, he puts it in the back of the net, and that's why he's Newcastle's number 9, and has been for so many years. And 18 goals in a Premier League season is a fantastic achievement, and I'm sure he'll be looking for 20.
11 goals since the start of April. It's not bad,
We
is
built
it,
him up
Shane?
before the game, Seaman. We gave him the full build-up.
We did, and that's why.
He backed it up, of course. No, it's a brilliant finish. We actually thought when we watched it live, we thought he must be offside.
Yeah, we did, didn't
But
we?
he timed his run perfectly. Great striker. We just curved that run a little bit, and it's a brilliant finish because that puts the game to bed in the 89th minute. It's 3-1. So, but it's a cool, calm, collective finish, and you know, Callum Wilson's on the score sheet again.
But then I don't know if anyone quite expected 1 minute and 35 seconds later for another goal to be scored from Newcastle
No,
United.
definitely not. And even Eddie Howe was saying, you know, just sit in now, nice and compact. We'll see the game out of 3-1. But no, they press him again. We talk about the pressing, you know, and they get high up the pitch. Callum makes a great run again. I think it's Dunk's trying to get back, and then he just sort of swivels, and we think he's going to shoot at that point. And the last person we think will probably pop up in the box is Bruno Guimaraes in the 90 whatever was the 91st minute or something. It's so late on the game. You think, oh, we'll just sit in the defensive units in midfield. We highlight him here. But he's thinking, oh, I can get in the box and I can score a goal. And I think he got a bit of cramp after that, you know. But Guimaraes has had a phenomenal season as well for the football club, and you just see him at the top of the picture here, like sprinting to get into the box. And again, Callum Wilson with an assist where he could have swiveled there and had a shot himself, and it's brilliant centre forward play.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise is that Callum passed that there.
Yeah.
After scoring a minute earlier, I'm definitely swiveling and hitting that and trying to get my 9 into the season. But it shows the composure, it shows the teamwork that Newcastle do, and it puts the game to bed and one step closer to Champions League football.
And that man there, Bruno, as you mentioned, he's been such a pivotal part of this season. He didn't have the best game, but then came through at the end, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, people in recent weeks says he's dipped a bit because he just had a baby and stuff.
It can happen.
A little Geordie's been, I know, a little Geordie's been born.
Sleepless nights.
I know, sleepless nights, you know, Seema, but it's special. I mean, he's looking up to the crowd after with a heart shape up, I'm sure, to his little son or whatever. But it's it's a great story. He's had a phenomenal season. We'll allow him a couple of dips in form because he's one of the super performers of the season. But you go through the team, Nick Pope, you look at Botman, you look at Bruno Guimaraes, you look at Callum Wilson, Isak, Trippier, the captain we spoke to at the end. There's so many players you could pick out and go, wow, he's been player of the season, he's been player of the season. I'm glad I'm not picking that award because it has been a real team effort. And again, you know, Eddie Howe's just seemed to have got the balance right. And you can see a few of them, you know, a little bit tired towards the end, cramp coming in and stuff, you know, because he has had that same 11 for most of the season. And that's again why hopefully they'll strengthen in the summer and give, you know, extra players, you know, that competition for next season as well. Yeah,
and it's one thing picking out lots of individuals, as Shay just said, and showing that, you know, this team have great star quality, but it's another thing becoming a team and a unit and being able to deliver week in, week out.
Yeah, I mean, I always think of management. If you can get 25 Premier League players pulling one direction, you're halfway there. And that's something they've done at Newcastle. And do you know what? You look at, like, the psychology behind it, like, on social media, the picture in the changing room, just connecting them with the community, even the lap around the stadium at the end of the game there, just keeping that sort of that community about the place. It's so vitally important, and I think we get lost in the Premier League. The clubs are massive, they're juggernauts of businesses, but ultimately they're representations, they're local community, and they're representing Newcastle perfectly at the moment.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point there. Well, let's hear from the man that's brought this all together, the manager, Eddie Howe.
Congratulations on another win, another vitally important win. A game you started very brightly and finished strongly, but with some anxious moments in between.
Yeah, pretty fair. I think we were excellent in the first half. Really, really strong performance. A lot of regains in their half of the pitch. Probably kicking ourselves we haven't taken some of the chances we created. We were reliant on set plays to score. And Brighton are a top team. Look, they had a couple of chances. They scored one of them, and it was always going to make it a little bit nervy at 2-1.
Was that the game plan, to put them under pressure deep in their own half? Because it was something that seemed to be working very well for you.
Well, that's how we believe we want to play. Very fast action, high intensity work. I've got to credit the players on what they've given physically today, because to maintain that rhythm throughout the game is not easy against a top quality team, especially in possession. They take a lot of risks, but they benefit from those risks at times. And we were hoping for a mistake, but can't fault the players. They've given everything again.
If chances aren't taken in open play, having someone of Kieran Trippier's ability with a dead ball is very useful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's something we've done really well with this season. Probably haven't scored the goals that we've deserved to. But it was great to see two come off tonight, great to see Dan score again. And then second half, as you say, it was nervy until we got the third goal, and then we sort of were able to relax and look really good again.
Yeah, nice moment for Dan Burn to get that Premier League goal in Newcastle colours.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, he's been incredible all season for us, and that was a massive goal for us tonight. So he seems to pop up with big goals at the right time.
And Callum Wilson's composure to make it 3-1, just as I'd imagine there were a few jittery moments for you.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was offside initially, but he took it superbly, and then he had a very similar chance later on. But I thought Callum tonight epitomised the team really. He led from the front. His work rate, his endeavour was backed up by the players behind him, but I thought he was fantastic.
Can you smell it, Eddie? You're 1 win away with 2 to play. The Champions League is so close.
Yeah, it is, but it's so far away as well. So we'll enjoy tonight. Let's just focus on how we've played. We'll enjoy it, but make sure we're very focused on our next match against Leicester.
The way the 3rd and 4th goals were celebrated, and also at the end, at the full-time whistle, that gave an indication, though, that the group, the supporters, that they feel as though this could be a result that they look back on as being the one that very nearly got you over the line.
I think we were just pleased with the performance tonight, really, to beat a side of their quality. Saw what they did to Arsenal very recently. We're just pleased with that. We're not looking too far ahead. There's a long way to go.
How close do you need to be, Eddie, before we get you to talk about it?
When it's done, then I'll talk about it for fun if you want.
But you know what? Let's actually talk in more detail about this race for top 4, because there are 2 places and there are 3 teams in it. So, Glenn, how do you see this going based on the fixtures?
I think this coming weekend, is a huge weekend for Manchester United and Liverpool. Both tricky fixtures. Bournemouth is a potential banana skin for Man United, and I think Villa, that are pushing for Europe for Liverpool. That's going to be a tough game. But do you know what? I can't see Liverpool losing the game, and Manchester United, I think, got the most difficult running.
Yeah, and I mean, Liverpool have won, 7 in a row now. This form has just come from nowhere. And that's really put a lot of pressure on Manchester United now, above really Newcastle, because Newcastle just won tonight.
Yeah, and again, we look at that Leicester game, just looking at Newcastle first and foremost. That Leicester game and Monday night again, we talk about the atmosphere. You imagine the atmosphere Monday night when they know that one victory can get them into the Champions League guaranteed, and then, as Eddie says in his interview, he'll be laughing and joking all he wants after the game because it's factual then, no one can sort of speculate. Man United have still work to do, got a few tough games to go, and of course, as you mentioned, Liverpool, the only reason we're sort of talking about it so tight and nervy is because 7 games on the bounce. They've won as a phenomenal run they're on, and you would imagine Aston Villa at home at the weekend and away to Southampton, I think they'll get maximum points, so United have to get some results, and of course Newcastle, hopefully Monday night, will get the job done. So given all that, how important was tonight's victory then for Newcastle, Glenn?
Oh, it was huge. It just seemed to have tightened up overnight, didn't it? No one seen it coming, and all of a sudden there's 3 teams in it. And yeah, Newcastle, well, Eddie Howe for certain will rest much easier this evening. I think he might get a full night's sleep for the first time in a while.
So what do you think it'll be like on Monday night then?
Well, again, it's all about recovery. Now, you see at the end there, I think Bruno went down with cramp. A few lads came off. Obviously, Willock lost the injury tonight. I imagine that's his season over because it looks like a hamstring problem. So again, he has to sort of get them ready, mentally as much as physically, because they've had so many games crammed in them, so many big games now when the pressure's been mounting up. So again, just wrap them up in cotton wool, not do too much training, just try and get focused for Monday night. But the atmosphere of seeing Monday night will be mental. You can imagine one-off game. We talked about before, a one-off game to get Champions League football. As you mentioned, 20 years since that's been. I played, I was a lot less wrinkly than you probably see on the screen now.
Still look like a
fewer less grey hairs and stuff. But yeah, it would be special to have Champions League night back at St James's Park. It would be unbelievable.
And you explained before how important football is to this city. I mean, can you imagine Champions League nights at St James's Park? It will be very special.
Oh, it will, and I fully expect it to happen, and they deserve it. It's been a really good story this season. It's one that I think a lot of the country are invested in, even if they're not Newcastle fans. But yeah, great story, and like Shay says, it'll be a welcome return of Champions League football on Tyneside. OK, well, what a special night it was. Really enjoyed both of your company. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your company as well. 3 points for Newcastle United tonight. 3 more points.
Position MRBEAR. Alors, que se passe-t-il? Le buteur Hakim Ziyech est resté au sol.